If you've been inside the Waterville Opera House lately, the major players are scaffolds, drop cloths, and paintbrushes, and the voices are those of hammers and power tools. The Waterville Opera House is undergoing a major renovation. Barbara Allen is the Director of Development at the Opera House.
The theater was built atop City Hall in 1902, and aside from new seats in the theater in the late 1980s, had little upgrade throughout the years.
Allen says some of the seats in the balcony were very old and falling apart, and there were problems with antiquated electrical systems. That, plus the lack of a freight elevator, placed limitations on the number of productions the theater could handle each year. The Opera House itself has a long and storied history.
It's an old building. It's served a lot of purposes over the years. Theater, vaudeville house, went through many years as a movie theater. We have a number of our donors community members who remember coming when they were children to the Saturday matinees and seeing Tom Mix. Tom Mix and his horse even came one time to the theater. So there's a lot of history in it. And one thing that's so exciting about the project is that while we are upgrading new lights, new sound, new wiring, new rigging, and having all the modern amenities for productions, I think the feel for the audience is going to be even much more of an historic ambiance.
Some of that history, a lost mural that had not been seen for many years, was uncovered as workmen prepared the ceiling in the auditorium for new paint.
The mural is actually very interesting. In the old photos that we have from the early 1900s, it's very clear that there was a mural in the center of the ceiling directly above the center stage. At one time, when it was first put up, it was surrounded by what was probably a plaster, very elaborate plaster border that formed the frame. And we knew that from old pictures that the mural was there at one time. We didn't know if it was still there. And so back in, I think it was late October, early November, the painter who was up on the scaffolding prepping the ceiling for repainting was scraping away, and all of a sudden he caught fabric. He caught an edge of fabric. And so he realized that there was something there, and so he started removing it very carefully and discovered the entire mural that had been painted on canvas. There was no paint behind the mural, so the painter surmised that it was put up originally, and then all the paint, it was painted on canvas, and then it was glued up with a plaster frame built around it.
The improvements in the Opera House will mean a great deal more flexibility for the theater.
We're going to take advantage of touring musical groups, of comedians. We'll be able to bring in a lot more groups because we'll be able to have a quicker turnaround time. And because of having the freight elevator and the set construction shop, we won't be tying up our stage. So within a few years, we're hoping that we might be able to offer some sort of an event nearly every weekend.
Audiences will also notice many new amenities.
The audiences will have the opportunity to sit in new seats in the balcony, to enjoy the new carpeting, the new paint, the new trim, to enjoy the experience of a beautifully renovated theater as an audience, and then they'll be able to enjoy all of the new production capabilities in terms of light and sound and rigging, and the fact that we'll be able to bring in new productions that we couldn't bring in before.
Also among those amenities is a completely redesigned lobby space.
The lobby is changing quite a bit. The old women's room has been removed, and where the women's room used to be is an entrance to the new wing that's now being constructed off the lobby level of the theater. That will house the restrooms, men's and women's restrooms for the public. And then beyond that, where the restrooms are, there will be dressing rooms for the cast. And most people won't get back there except when we offer tours, but it will be a huge improvement for the performers as opposed to the rickety dressing rooms that were previously located on either side of the stage.
That new wing will also provide a major improvement in accessibility for the Opera House, making it possible to access both the auditorium and the stage without encountering any physical barriers. What started out as a $250,000 project championed by local philanthropist Fred Bushy to replace worn seats in the balcony turned into a $5 million renovation. The Opera House is completing the project with the help of a few friends.
We had a $2 million matching grant from the Harold Alfond Foundation, and we met that match at the end of last summer. We raised over $2 million for that match. And then they actually awarded us a capstone grant of another $300,000 for the set construction shop. So we've had a total of $2.3 million from the Harold Alfond Foundation, plus the $2 million plus that we've raised. We still need to raise some more. Despite the value engineering, as we call it, there still are some items that we need to include in the budget. So even though we met our initial goal, we haven't hung up our fundraising hats as yet.
But they are getting ready to celebrate. The Waterville Opera House will open its doors for a grand reopening on April 27.
It will be a show that will feature film, dance, and musical theater excerpts. And the Bosov Ballet, one of our partners, will present a piece choreographed by Andrei Bosov called Circus, in which the dancers dance the parts of circus performers of all types. And we're also doing film. By April, the Maine International Film Festival will pretty much know what their films are going to be for the July season, so they'll give us some sort of a preview of what might be coming, or maybe do an historic film, since the theater was a movie house for many years.
That will give the Opera House an opportunity to showcase its new projection equipment. When it's all done, Alan says the facility will be a much more pleasant experience for both performers and audiences.